I can't believe summer is ending. It's almost fall. And one thing that I completely forgot about was that one of my New Year's resolutions was supposed to be making my home feel more cozy. I really wanted to rearrange our dining room and our living room. And recently I got a pair of these gorgeous, cozy chairs. They're these striped chairs that I've been seeing everywhere. They're going super viral on TikTok and Instagram. And I just had to get them. They were the perfect thing for my new living room. And I got them from Wayfair. So Wayfair has everything you need to cozify your own space this fall, from comfy recliners to warm bedding and seasonal autumn decor. My style, I would say, is a little bit coastal, a little bit traditional, a little bit boho, all rolled into one. I'm really trying to lean into more color and more cozy textiles, especially as the weather starts to cool down. The best part about these new chairs is not only are they comfortable and super cute, but they arrived fully assembled. Just had to take them out of the box, and they got to my house in 2-3 days, maybe tops. So it was super fast. It was a great shopping experience. And did I mention I got them both for under $700? I could not believe what an amazing deal it was. So you can shop at Wayfair and get anything you need, from bedding and bath basics to your work from home setups to a living room refresh like myself. There's something for every style, every home, and every budget. Plus, there's free and easy delivery, even on big stuff, big furniture. So there's no need to make multiple stops at all different stores. You can get everything you need from Wayfair. You can cozify your space with their curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates, from comfy recliners to cozy bedding and autumn decor. Find it all for way less at wayfair.com. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Welcome back to No One Told Us, the podcast that tells the truth about parenting and talks about all the stuff you wish you knew before having kids. I'm your host, Rachael, and today I'm joined by Erin Spahr, a licensed therapist, mother, podcast host, and maternal mental health advocate. Erin uses a feminist lens in her work with mothers and strives to help mothers free themselves from oppressive societal expectations to find more self-confidence and self-compassion. She hosts the Feminist Mom Podcast, where she discusses the intersection of feminism and motherhood with inspiring new guests each week. And Erin recently launched the Inclusive Provider Directory, which is an incredible directory that serves as a vital link connecting mothers, birthing individuals, and families in the United States and Canada with perinatal providers who prioritize inclusivity and identity-affirming care, which is so important. Erin sees clients as well in her private practice, available to folks in North Carolina and Maryland. And she lives in Raleigh, North Carolina with her husband and 2 kids. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yay. Thanks for inviting me. This is exciting.
Of course. Well, I love listening to your podcast, and we've chatted, both on and off Instagram before. I was a guest on your podcast when you first started, and we had a really great conversation. So I'm going to link that in the show notes as well. And hopefully we won't be repeating ourselves too much here, but I love that you're now kind of in the hot seat, and we can talk a little bit about both your motherhood journey and your journey as a therapist and navigating this world of not online therapy, but, content creation or whatever you want to call it. But first, I'd kind of love to just hear a little bit about your background. So you started as a therapist, and then did you always have the specialty in working with parents or working in the perinatal period, or did that kind of come about after you had your own kids and wanted to shift? How did that all go?
Yeah, I wasn't a therapist that long before I had my first son. So he's almost 12, I guess. And so I had only been practicing a year. I was really interested in trauma, and I had been working also in an inner city population with lots of, people having poverty to deal with and lots of complicated problems. And I also had this interest in sociology. So in college, I majored in psychology. I knew I wanted to be a therapist, but I was so interested in my sociology classes, which really teach you about these systems of oppression. And so it's sort of been a thread for me kind of throughout, where I've sort of seen things. I took a lot of classes about racism in college. And so it's a lens that I've had. And then when I became a mom, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And I knew that I had a lot of privilege. I had a lot of resources and internal capacity. And I was like, you kind of wake up to you're like in this club that you didn't realize existed, because from the outside it looks so different than how it feels on the inside. And I remember just being like, wait, this is really hard. Like, how are people doing this? And so that kind of began my interest in really serving moms. Also really kind of early on was breastfeeding and feeling like that was something that, I breastfed both my kids for like longer than, a lot of people were. The first one was 3 years and the second one was 5. And so that also was like a lens that I felt like alone in, and wanted to help normalize a lot of the things that I was seeing, and then of course seeing in my clients. And the feminist mom therapist thing has really developed from sitting with moms and really focusing on perinatal folks, and really seeing how, yes, there are hormonal pieces that do impact our mental health and how we experience that transition to motherhood, but there's so much that's impacted by our society. And that became something that I just cannot stop seeing and wanting to talk about, because I think it's so important that we address it.
Yeah, I agree. So what are some of the things that you see as the most glaring in terms of what is lacking, at least in the US here, for women and parents, just as far as the societal and systemic oppression and lack of support? What do you think are the biggest things that we have to overcome right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think structurally it will probably not be a surprise. I think the fact that we don't have a federal paid parental leave policy in the U.S. is really inhumane. And I know we talk about it and it's sort of like, oh yeah, it's this thing we don't have. It's like absolutely horrendous that people are going back to work 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks postpartum, and that is, I think, the number one most inhumane thing that we do to moms. Yeah. But then, of course, I think there's this like social ideology that in America in particular, but other Western sort of countries share, which is this very individualistic culture, right? Like how much of the time do we hear like you made the choice, you decided to have a baby, it's your responsibility to take care of them. And I think that ideology, that way of thinking spreads to so many areas that really impacts moms in particular, but families in general. And I think that other cultures, not to romanticize or idolize other cultures because they have their own problems, but I think there is a way where we could be much more collectivist, much more community-based. And I think in the past we were. I think in my podcast, I get to talk to so many smart people who really have done a lot of like research into the history. And, for so long, like humans were, we were in clans, we were in communities, we were in the quote village that we're always talking about. And that, or really not having that is, I think, is really hurting us in so many ways. And I think that we see that in partnerships where there's definitely double standards about what women, mothers sort of have on our plates versus what men expect of themselves and what we expect of them. So I think there's a lot where sort of this can all kind of touch. But yeah, that's the kind of overview.
Yeah, and the piece that you hit on for me is like the isolation and the loneliness too. And I just put up a question box on my Instagram today about this because we're kind of talking about stay-at-home moms and working moms and what do you wish, one quote unquote side understood about the other. And from stay-at-home moms, one of the big things that's coming up in as a theme is the isolation and the loneliness that they feel and how they love their kids, they love being home with their kids, but they feel so disconnected from society. And I really wish that it wasn't that way. Like you said, we should be raising our kids in community and we should have those support systems, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had a similar kind of discussion over the weekend in my stories. It was more focused just on kind of like the stay-at-home mom, and that just the words don't work, right? Like I just want to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Like, stay-at-home mom does not capture the the vocation, as somebody, a Chiefs kicker recently said, like, it is a vocation. But yeah, working mom, like all moms work, so that doesn't kind of feel great. Full-time mom, we're all full-time moms. So yeah, I think we're trying to I think it's important to have words to label like your identity and to be able to talk about what you do. And I think it's helpful. And I just don't know what the words are. Yeah, I know. I don't like them.
I know. None of them feel quite right. And I feel like so many of us, especially post-COVID, are kind of a hybrid where it's like we are working from home, or we're running our own business, or we're doing a side hustle because we need the extra income or whatever it is, but we're also the sole caretaker for our kids. So it's like we're doing a little bit of both. Or some people are, working part-time or doing some freelance work or contractor work or something like that, and also caring for the kids. And there's more stay-at-home dads now. So there's like so many other iterations of this idea where I think you're right. I think people like to be able to talk about it and label it in a way that feels right. But there's also so many different shades of gray now too. It's not just, oh, I'm a working mom, or oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom, right?
Yeah. And like dads, like you mentioned, we don't really say he's a working dad. Like the assumption is that dads are working. Mm-hmm. The stay-at-home dad is almost like this, like, a unicorn thing. And I know that's something that Marley's going through. And
but he's curious. Like praised everywhere he goes. Yeah. Like it's wild. Everybody looks at him like he is just God's gift to the earth. Like he can walk on water. And I'm like, I get it. I know that it's a hard job. I did it too. And I am so appreciative of him. But at the same time, I just wish that there was that awe and respect and admiration for the millions and millions of moms who are doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think we should like underestimate how difficult that is, right? I think like sometimes these things can feel like, oh, it's just like noise. Like women are just like complaining all the time and like, what? But it's hard to feel invisible and to feel unappreciated when you're doing really important work, I think, and not feeling a lot respected or empowered in our culture. So yeah, I think we can't, stop talking about it.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned that kicker and that speech that was made at the university recently. And I think from what I'm gathering, it seems like a lot of women actually did resonate with some of the things that he said. And that's, their prerogative. But I think part of that is probably what you kind of just said, how we're so unappreciated as moms, and really just want somebody to recognize like what a huge deal it is to be a mom and to devote your life to staying at home with your kids, or to bringing up your kids in whatever way that looks for you. So yeah, I do kind of understand that side of things too, with, the misogyny and homophobia that was in that speech aside. Like I do get, why pieces of it felt good or felt true for some people.
Yes, if they only listen to just like one part of it.
Yeah, that one little sentence.
One sentence, and like, I think so many women are starved for recognition and do hear like, oh, what you're doing is so easy, anyone can do it. It's like not that serious.
It's not a job. Yeah.
It's not a job. So using the word vocation sounds really empowering and sort of respectful, and at the same time there was so much context in kind of how he was saying it, where he was saying it, who he was directing to. So not a fan of all of that. But yes, I think I can see why someone might hear that with like a rose-colored glasses or whatever. I guess you don't hear with glasses, but you get it.
I get it. And I think that, that piece is part of another thing that I kind of wanted to talk to you about today, which is even just the term feminism seems to have kind of taken on a negative connotation in recent years. And I want to talk to you about that right when we get back. We'll take a quick break. I can't believe summer is ending. It's almost fall. And one thing that I completely forgot about was that one of my New Year's resolutions was supposed to be making my home feel more cozy. I really wanted to rearrange our dining room and our living room. And recently I got a pair of these gorgeous, cozy chairs. They're these striped chairs that I've been seeing everywhere. They're going super viral on TikTok and Instagram. And I just had to get them. They were the perfect thing for my new living room. And I got them from Wayfair. So Wayfair has everything you need to cozify your own space this fall, from comfy recliners to warm bedding and seasonal autumn decor. My style, I would say, is a little bit coastal, a little bit traditional, a little bit boho, all rolled into one. I'm really trying to lean into more color and more cozy textiles, especially as the weather starts to cool down. The best part about these new chairs is not only are they comfortable and super cute, but they arrived fully assembled. Just had to take them out of the box, and they got to my house in 2-3 days, maybe tops. So it was super fast. It was a great shopping experience. And did I mention I got them both for under $700? I could not believe what an amazing deal it was. So you can shop at Wayfair and get anything you need, from bedding and bath basics to your work from home setups to a living room refresh like myself. There's something for every style, every home, and every budget. Plus, there's free and easy delivery, even on big stuff, big furniture. So there's no need to make multiple stops at all different stores. You can get everything you need from Wayfair. You can cozify your space with their curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates, from comfy recliners to cozy bedding and autumn decor. Find it all for way less at wayfair.com. That's Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. The kids are now back to school, and they are right back into all of their activities and stuff. So there are nights where I'm not making a family meal because one kid's at soccer, one kid's at swimming. We're getting home at all different times, and just a sit down meal isn't going to happen every single night. And I'm okay with that. I make the kids something they like. And then for my husband and I, we grab one of our Factor meals right out of the fridge. Factor is so delicious. It helps us eat smarter with really tasty chef prepared meals that are dietitian approved. And the best part is that they are delivered right to our door, so there is zero prep or mental energy needed, because we are tapped out by the end of the day, as I know most of you guys are too. So now there's more than 65 weekly meals made for how we live and what we like to eat, and it's so much easier to fit in real, nutritious, high protein, and super yummy meals whenever we need to. So you can choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options. They include premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. And you can try the new Asian-inspired meals, which are some of our new faves, with really bold, delicious flavors influenced by China, Thailand, and other cuisines. So for more choices and better nutrition, 97% of customers say Factors has helped them live a healthier life. You will feel the difference no matter what your routine is, and they honestly taste like restaurant quality. I am not making that up. I promise you, they are so delicious. My husband also absolutely loves them, and it's always enough food for him, which is rare with something like this because the man eats a lot. So you can eat smart at factormeals.com/no-one-told-us-50 off and use code no-one-told-us-50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfasts for a year. That's an insane deal. So that's code no-one-told-us-50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. So, Erin, sometimes feminism has this negative connotation, especially in the political context. And I know you wear the term feminist very proudly, as you should. You're known as the feminist therapist on Instagram. So what does it mean really to be a feminist to you?
Yeah. It's definitely not about hating men or hating moms. It's really, I think, a fight toward more equitable power. It's a fight about liberation of marginalized genders, including women, and it's really about fairness, and it's not about equality, like everyone needs to be the same, or we have to sort of say all men and women are the same, but it's about really giving everyone the same options and choices to self-determination, right? That's like a human right. And in this, like, really patriarchy is like, you know, kind of the problem that feminism is trying to solve or to kind of go against, right? And patriarchy, I've come to understand, is really worldwide. You know, I think patriarchy is like in every country that I sort of have heard from people. Like, I think it's worldwide, and women, sometimes it's like when it's like the air you breathe and the water you drink, sometimes it's hard to see it. And I talk a lot about how in motherhood, especially if you have had privilege because you are, let's say, white or able-bodied or have education, or you have parents that are healthy. Like, there's so many ways that we can have privilege. I think when you lose it, and motherhood can be a way that we can lose it, we might realize, like, oh wait, I don't have as many choices. I don't have as much freedom. I don't have as much power in the world. And so I think why in the beginning you introduced me as like a matricentric feminist, that's a particular kind of ideology within the feminist movement, which has many different like iterations, that I'm really drawn to, because I think it recognizes that motherhood is an important part of feminism that hasn't always been recognized. And so I think that's part of, like you said, there's like this connotation I see in some mother spaces that feminism is somehow like anti-mother or anti-feminine, and partly because past waves of feminism were trying to give women options and kind of bring them into the workplace. And so for some women, that meant denying their motherhood. That meant saying, I'm not going to be a mom, right? And when that happened, a lot of women moved into the workplace. Many women were always in the workplace, particularly Black and brown women, poor women, right? So there's a lot of layers here, but there was this like kind of push for women to be in the workplace and to have like, reproductive rights, to have a credit card, like financial freedom that helped women get out of the domestic sphere where we felt trapped, many of us, right? And so now, so women have been, had choices, much more choices to work, to have an income, to, buy a house. But mothers particularly haven't been given the tools to really be successful, and we're burnt out and we're drained. And we've been told to just girl boss more, to work harder, which is actually what Koa Beck talks about, others talk about, called white feminism, which is really about just, yes, white women or women with privilege. They don't have to be white. White feminism is the name of it, but it doesn't mean if you're white that you're only the person here. It's this idea that women who have the most privilege can be successful within the patriarchy, right? The sort of the top 1%. And the rest of us are working our butts off and exhausted. So I think there's a reaction to that, understandably, to say, you know what, this is too much. I was taught to be a girl boss, and now I'm burnt out, and I don't feel good as a mom. I don't feel good as someone, my job, because none of these things actually fit in our society. We still have a society that was built on having a 1950s housewife at home, and we all wish we had one, but I wish I had one. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So instead, we're trying to do it all because the expectations have only increased, and they've only increased as far as a parenting, right? Like we're in this time of like intensive mothering, which means we're spending even more time with our kids, and we're not only in charge of like feeding and clothing them, but we're in charge of their mental health and in charge of like, teaching them how to be regulated, emotional beings. And not that that's bad, but it's just that we're not given any more supports. It's like you have a job and they just keep giving you more things with less. So I understand one reaction to that is like, well, F that. I'm just gonna embrace the domestic sphere. And actually this feels better. And for some women, it does. But what happens is that when it's prescribed to all women, that's, I think, where we get into a real oppression. And there's more to it, but I'm like rambling.
Yes.
So
No, everything you're saying, I'm just like nodding, because everything you're saying is what I've been feeling, especially in the online space where there is so much polarization, right? That's like what gets pumped out in the algorithm is this super polarized, either like girl boss, you can have it all. You can have a 7-figure business while raising your babies. And then there's this other like tradwife movement. So it's very polarized. And I think a lot of women are probably left feeling like, well, I don't really want to do that, but I also don't really want to do that other thing. And so they're left feeling like, well, what is there for me, right? In terms of privilege too, another theme that was coming through a lot in my stories today, responses from people was, well, yes, I understand it's a privilege to stay home, but it's also really hard. But then there's also, yeah, I know it's a privilege that I get to go to work and pay for daycare, but I'm also really missing this time at home with my kids. And I think both sides of this argument are feeling like they need to kind of announce that it's a privilege, when really the privilege is getting to choose, right? The privilege is I get to choose if I want to work because I'm not, having to spend my entire paycheck to daycare, or I get to choose if I want to stay home because, my income isn't going to be completely impacted, or, I think it comes down to these systemic issues again, right? We don't have adequate maternity leave. We don't have adequate childcare, and those things kind of push women into choices that they maybe wouldn't make for themselves if they had all the resources available to them. Yep. So I would love to kind of hear your take though on the tradwife movement and why you think that's resonating with so many people. You kind of just touched on it, but yeah.
No, I have more to say on that. Don't you worry. I think that first of all, tradwives on the internet, on social media are working. And I think we have to acknowledge that behind the curtain, they are earning money. They're creating, how much work it takes to create content.
That's the thing. I don't think people really I don't think that's clicking for a lot of people, that all the tradwives you're watching, they're spending hours per day creating and editing videos and building their platform. That is a lot of work, and people don't realize how much work it is, but it is. It takes so much time. And so I think that's part of what I just want to acknowledge is they are working there. This is a business that they're doing. But what feels icky, or one of the things that feels icky, is that they are selling something, an ideology that is not congruent with what they're actually doing, right? So they're trying to kind of proselytize this idea of gender essentialism, that women are happiest in the home, in the domestic sphere, that motherhood is what we're meant to do. And there's often a religious component, I think, for folks, which would be fine if that right now we're in a place where religion is, it's supposed to be separate from politics. And we're in a place where folks who have a particular religious background are trying to make everyone have these same beliefs. So there's a context here of really trying to, I think, push a particular agenda politically, systemically, with rolling back of our reproductive rights, and then seeing that glamorized in these beautiful images. And they can be so beautiful, which is part of what is really enticing, right? Seeing, a woman who's dressed in a pretty dress, and she just looks effortlessly beautiful in her beautiful home and with her babies, and just they're selling a dream that it's the American dream, really. It's this idea of it's a romantic idea of what it can be. And for many of us, that's not most of our lives. Maybe there's a moment you get, I don't know, but it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel true. And so that's also, I think, quite harmful because, we compare ourselves to these momfluencers and particularly tradwives. And often it's not just this is my hobby, I like to make my house look beautiful. It's it comes with messages of subservience, of, right, sort of, yes, you're supposed to kind of let your male partner
husband be the boss and make the decisions. And that is all very icky and feels very unsafe. So
yeah. And if that's like the roles that you want to have in your own marriage, to each their own, I guess, but to be spreading it like it's what everybody should be doing is not good. And you also just touched on something, though, that I think is also super important just from a mental health lens that I would love for you to talk about a little bit more when we get back from the break, which is this idea of comparison on social media. So we'll be right back.
I had the time of my life. I never felt this way before.
From building timelines to assigning the right people and even spotting risks across dozens of projects, Monday Sidekick knows your business, thinks ahead, and takes action. One click on the star and consider it done.
And I owe it all to you.
Try Monday Sidekick, AI you'll love to use on monday.com.
People always ask me, is Thrive Market really worth it? Is it really that great? Do you really love it? And I don't know what else to tell you guys. I love Thrive Market so much. I've been a loyal customer for years. We have our delivery at least once a month because we have a bunch of our everyday items on Subscribe. And then we're kind of always checking in for sales and deals to get other stuff as well, like pantry items and snacks and supplements, and even our like pantry stuff and toiletries. We get our toothpaste from there. I mean, literally everything. It makes our life so much easier. It simplifies that before school rush. We now have 3 kids in school, which is absolutely wild, but that means we go through a lot of snacks. And Thrive Market isn't just convenient, but it is the absolute best place to shop if you are looking for high quality and no junk food, but without the massive price tag. So if you want to try Thrive Market, go to thrivemarket.com/HeySleepyBaby to get 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift. That's thrivemarket.com/HeySleepyBaby. So Erin, we were talking before the break about these like girl bosses and tradwives, and, both can be kind of harmful when just, the average mom is scrolling and sees all these images and all these videos about what motherhood could or should look like. Mm-hmm. Are you seeing in your practice an uptick in things like anxiety from moms scrolling social media? Or, there's also, in addition to tradwife content, there's also a lot of experts out there now, experts in everything from feeding to sleep. I'm including myself in this, development to, speech. There's experts for everything, behavior. And sometimes I do wonder if it's causing more harm than good. So what do you think about that? What are you seeing?
Yes. Well, my thoughts on that are, first of all, a lot of the moms today are like millennials. Millennials are kind of a big group. So I'm an elder millennial, but we have like a lot of millennials. There's some Gen X, Gen Zs in there too. And my observation is that growing up, a lot of us really relied on external feedback to kind of know whether we were doing a quote good job. There was a lot of like good and bad. There was a lot of reward and punishment. I think back in our day, there wasn't as much like, what are you feeling like right now?
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a lot of co-regulation happening the way we're trying to figure out now. It was like, this is good, this is bad, right? Mm-hmm. And in lots of ways, right? And I think many of us could then rely on getting grades to know, okay, I got a good grade or a bad grade. That's how I know how I'm doing. I got an award or we won the game. I got a promotion, I got the job, right? There's all these like external markers. And then you come into motherhood and you're inexperienced. You don't know what the heck you're doing. You have this huge responsibility in front of you. Your brain is changing. You're going through this transition and you might feel lost. And I think a lot of us were not taught to look inside, right? Again, with like what we're trying to do as parents now is like, okay, it seems like you're feeling frustrated, right? A lot of people didn't get that. It seems like you're feeling frustrated. What do you need? It was, don't do that, do this, do that. I'm quite overgeneralizing here, but sort of in general, the trends have changed. And so I think a lot of us then don't have this inner self-trust. And we're looking externally to sort of know what to do. And the experts, I think, are like, it's like a catnip for us. It's like, tell me what to do. And I think that, as motherhood, there's not one way to do it. And I think we hear often what maybe the optimal way would be. Oh, here's the optimal time to let your kid watch TV. Here's the optimal time to breastfeed. Here's the optimal, and we hear optimal, and I think like we think that's the only way. It's that or we're failing. So I absolutely see a lot of moms really struggling if they're not meeting these like benchmarks that their pediatricians are saying or the experts are saying. There's no gray in there. It's either I succeed or I fail. And of course you're not going to succeed in all of these ways, because we just laid out why it's so hard already to be successful. So often I try to support my clients and just moms that I know to like really like find some self-compassion, to sort of figure out how they develop that self-trust over time with experience, with someone helping to kind of check in with them. Like we're trying to figure out how to do with our kids. Like, yeah, how'd that turn out? How'd that feel? Sounds like you're overwhelmed from trying to do all those things. Like, so I think, yes. And I think comparing yourself then to this very unrealistic perception of what a mother looks like, right? So with filters and curated, it's really easy to feel like we're messing up.
Yeah, I think that self-compassion advice is such a good thing for people to remember. And I think for a lot of us, it can feel really hard to start something like that. What's a good way to start a type of practice like that, do you find?
Yeah, so self-compassion, I feel like is like it's the thing right now, right? We kind of have different things. I think mindfulness was like big for a while. Things change. But what I really like about self-compassion is, to me, it's like I'm human, I'm flawed, and I deserve empathy. And just like someone I know, if they were saying, I'm struggling to do this parenting thing, I think there is something that many of us can relate to, is feeling like, yeah, you're too hard on yourself. But we often have adapted this like internal voice that is harsh. And there's lots of reasons for that culturally, but also in our families of origin. And a lot of people think that if they that's helpful. A lot of people think that like that's keeping them going. If I'm hard on myself, I'm like a tough coach on myself, that's going to protect me. And I think a lot of then people realize actually it's not protecting you, or it did protect you at one point, and now we can like have other tools. So it's sort of like softening that inner voice. It's realizing like a good coach or just like a good parent is someone who believes in your goodness, who says like you're having a hard time, not like you're bad, right? I think that what we're trying to do as parents with our kids, you're not a bad kid, you're having a bad time, or I don't know, what are the things people say?
No, that's like, that sounds right.
Yeah, like you're applying that to yourself. It's like, yeah, I'm having a hard time, so therefore I deserve comfort, I deserve connection and support, I deserve to give myself a break. If I really did something so terrible and it's hurting someone, then I should repair, right? And try to ask for forgiveness and then forgive myself. So it's like it's the relationship you have with yourself that I think can really help when things are hard, because they will be.
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking a little bit about this idea that is quite popular now as well, of like reparenting yourself, or like kind of mothering yourself. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah. I think it's, especially when you're a mom, it's an easier way to kind of think about that relationship, because we're trying to figure that out with our kids. So yeah, it's applying even things that you naturally do to like soothe your kid. I think those are things we can provide ourselves. And I think many of us weren't taught to do that.
Yeah, I love that. You also mentioned the brain change, and I would love if you could just explain what you mean by that with the changes to the brain right after you have a baby.
Yeah, so there's some really great books about that. A couple I could recommend are Mother Brain by Chelsea Conaboy is a great book. And then a new book by Dr. Nikki Pensack called Rattled really also explores the sort of changes to your brain after. And I'm like not a neuropsych person, so like I'm not good at explaining that. But in general, we can sort of think about how like our brains like have been sort of responding to the world just as singletons, single people, and now we have this like this new person to protect, and so our focus is going to change, and it's going to develop and grow in a really good way. We talk about mom brain as being like a mom brain. I can't focus. I'm having brain fog. Well, a lot of times it's because we're developing these new skills and new tools, right? That our brain is now kind of like growing. So this idea that moms are now like less capable is such a lie. It's actually that we are more capable. We're just focusing on different things than maybe we were before.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty cool research. Again, I'm not really the best person to talk about it, but definitely check out those 2 resources.
No, I love that. I always love getting book recommendations. So I'm going to look at, I've heard of Rattled, and I was trying to get her on the podcast, I think. Let me make a note to
we went to grad school together. So
cool. Okay,
yeah.
I'll name drop you to get her interested.
Yeah.
Erin, this has been such a great conversation. The thing that I would love to know before we wrap up is, what is something that you wish somebody had told you before you became a mom?
Yes, the theme of the podcast. Oh my goodness. So many things. I guess just like, it's okay to be a beginner. I think for me particularly, I want to do things well, and I want to become an expert as soon as possible, and I feel so much more confident once I have it all down, and I think I was really trying to rush that, and I wish I just felt like I had permission to just sort of take it slow, and like some confidence that you're gonna get there, but you don't have to get there right away. Just like.
Are you an oldest daughter?
I am. I'm such a classic older sister.
Me too. I was like, yep, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's really good advice, though. Yeah. I love that. Where can people find your new provider directory, the Inclusive Provider Directory, and all of your other resources?
Yes. So you could probably find it all through my page on Instagram. It's feminist.mom.therapist. And the Inclusive Inclusive Provider Directory really came out of like seeing so many people wanting providers, therapists who had a similar lens, who weren't going to gaslight them and sort of say like, oh, just have you tried telling your partner like what you need and making a list, and like not having this like awareness of what moms are dealing with. God. And so I decided like, let's create a directory where I can put all of the people that I think get it, or at least are aware of these different systems in one place so that families can find them. So I'm really excited about building that. If there are providers listening, I would love it for you to sign up. But that's at inclusiveproviders.com. And I also have a podcast, the Feminist Mom Podcast, feministmompodcast.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll link all that stuff for people to find it easily. It's all such helpful information and just really great resources for moms. And I always love your Instagram stories too. Just very entertaining. I loved the series you did recently. I think you saved it as a highlight with the magazines, like looking at all the magazines from back in the day. And it's like, no wonder we all had like eating disorders and all these other issues. It's just insane. But yeah, you always do such a thoughtful job of speaking to moms and women. So I really appreciate you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Rachel. This was great.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.